Hi everyone, it's me. Today's video is slightly different from my usual vlog because I'm going to talk about how much money I make/made as a UK pharmacist. In case you haven't met me before, my name is Jess. I'm an M.Pharm graduate and I worked as an hospital pharmacist in NHS Trust for nearly 3 years. And recently I left my job and became a full-time medical student. In case you wonder where this entire change came from, there's like a separate video so you can have a look into it. And in this video, I'd like to focus on the topic. In the NHS, you have band 1 to band 9. Usually, the higher your band is, the more senior you are and you get paid more as well. Newly qualified pharmacists who just got a job in the NHS would be band 6 pharmacists. And then usually after 2 to 3 years, you get band 7 and then 8A, 8B, 8C, and then band 9 is basically like a chief. I only worked as a band 6. I wasn't really interested in progression at all. It's because I think around like halfway, I already knew that pharmacy was not really like my way. And also when you progress, you tend to stay in one rotation for quite a long time. And I kind of wanted to experience as much as possible. So I stayed as band 6 for nearly 3 years, but just want to let you know that that's not that common. Usually after like 2 years or even some people after a year and a half, you kind of start like applying for band 7 jobs. As the NHS is run by the government, if you literally just Google like band 6 pharmacist pay or even just like band 6 or band 5 pay or whatever, you can see the whole table. But the real pay is slightly different because you always get some extra from like on call, and depending on where exactly you're working, if you're working in central London, you get paid more. And even within the same band, it depends on how long you've been working for the NHS. Sometimes you get paid a bit more as well. So I'd say whatever you find on Google, it's always going to be more. However, that's pre-deduction. So there will be some sort of like deduction. Tax is one of them, and national insurance, which is mandatory. And you've got NHS pension and student loan if you've got one. In my payslip, you wouldn't see NHS pension and student loan just because I dropped out from NHS pension, even though the NHS pension is well known to be how great they are. And in terms of the student loan, I'm from South Korea and I studied M.Pharm as an international student, so I wasn't eligible for any sort of like student loan. For the NHS pension, I used to pay, so I kind of know roughly how much they take. But in terms of the student loan, I actually have no idea how much they are. And I didn't really want to ask any of my colleagues because it can be quite like an invasive question. So I'm afraid that you won't be able to find the information from my video. And I recommend you to look at some other videos for this information. So today I've got 2 payslips. One payslip from the month that I didn't do any on-call week, and one from the month that I had an on-call week, because the difference is actually quite a lot. It's kind of like 1 in 2 months, like very roughly. So the sum of 2 payslips times by 6 would be roughly my annual earning, if that makes sense. And one more thing is, these payslips are from 2023, just because I was working 4 days a week this year. So I just thought it might be a bit more confusing if I decide to bring the ones from this year and then try to calculate it back to full time. Then please note, compared to 2023, the NHS staff had a pay rise of 5.5% this year. So for anyone who's getting a job, please note that you will get more than what you're looking at in this video. And just to make sure, the payment system is very different in all trusts and it can change anytime. Please do not solely rely on information that I'm giving in this video if you're making some sort of a big decision in your career. Anyways, sorry for the long introduction. Let's get it started. Da-da-da-da-da. So this is from 2023 August, and let's just break down the pay. This is the national guide for the band 6 pay, but I get more. You will see. Let's look at here. This is the hourly rate. I get £18.10 per hour. I mean, it's NHS. This is the outcome of your 4 years degree. Basic pay means that it's just the money that you're supposed to get paid as like basically, if you know what I mean. And Saturday and Sunday here, with this emergency commitment, they're basically the on-call pays. Every single trust has different on-call system, but in our trust, we had like a 2.8k yearly on top of your annual salary if you're part of the on-call rota, and then all the hours were getting paid. So it's a bit complicated, but basically this emergency commitment is something that you get paid if your job comes with on-call duties, which will be most of the cases for band 6 pharmacists. This one Saturday and one Sunday must have been from some sort of like other week or other month, I don't know, but just think it simply. All this green stuff is all because of my on-call. And you've got this inner London. This is basically the extra that I get from the NHS because I work in central London. This is actually called HCAS, which is high cost area supplement or something like that, which means that if you're living in the very central London, you get 20% more. Just a bit outside but still inside of London, it's 15% more. And if it's just outside of London, but it's still like really close to London, so your cost of living and everything is quite expensive, you get 5% more. So this is basically like 20% more, if that makes sense. And this bit, I actually had no idea what this was. So I Googled it. So the average rate of pay employee has 52 weeks of holiday. So basically what we're doing is employees should be paid the same as normal world holiday, so they would pay 14 time off. So I had a deduction here. So I'm thinking it's maybe because I didn't work like full year, the year before or something, but it's only £11, so I'm just gonna ignore. I'm sorry. So that was the pay bit, and let's go to deductions. Well, one thing that I forgot to say is basically this Saturday and Sunday, this bit I get the time back. But as because it's Saturday and Sunday, the pay is slightly more, literally this much more. So this is basically like an extra that you get on top of the time. And let's move on to the deduction. It's quite straightforward here. So this is just tax. And then this is national insurance. And as I mentioned, lots of people would have like NHS pension. It's usually like around 10% in my pay range. And student loan, I have no idea. And basically the whole sum of this goes here, and then this goes total deduction, and then net pay here is what I got as a take-home pay. So even if I didn't do any on-call week in that month, I still got the annual one, so my pay was higher than whatever the guide would say. This is when it gets a bit more complicated, but I will try my best. So it's pretty much the same. So basically basic pay here is the same. And let me find all the on-call bits. Everything that I'm highlighting now, it's all the on-call related. This is because I think I must have some sort of like a sick leave in that month. So when you're not feeling well in the NHS, up to I think like almost like 2 months, you get like full pay. But you wouldn't get paid for the emergency commitment because you're resting at home. So you're not part of that kind of like on-call stuff at all. So they would deduct it. So this is just why I had like a deduction. And then I've got inner London here. So the central London extra of 20%. And this time I had a bit of like extra. And the last bit here is this bit. Ooh, 44 per hour. Nice, isn't it? This was an extra shift that I did. I think I worked like 9 hours in total, but I think it was like 4 hours plus 5 hours. So 4 hours was kind of like part of my on-call week. And then this 5 hours was something that I think I signed up as like an extra. It really depends on the trust. In our trust, they only paid 44 for Sundays. Saturday was 20 something, and that was kind of like a very basic pay. So please don't think 44 is kind of like our average or something. It's not. This is like a really good pay. Deduction is pretty much the same. So tax and NI. So these are my deductions. And this was how much I got paid into my bank account. So I would say kind of average of these two would be how much I was getting paid like on average. But again, please note that my take-home pay was a bit higher than most Band 6 NHS employees. Firstly, because I wasn't contributing to the NHS pension, and secondly, I wasn't repaying any student loan. Also, please take into account that there was a 5.5% pay rise for the NHS workers backdated from April 2024, and all extras depend on the trust. So if you do a bit of calculations, you would know how much I was earning per year. I hope you guys found this video informative, and I'll see you in the next vlog then.